This is the Bonus Section Podcast, episode number 30. How they measure you is how you behave. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime, and that somewhere inside of you, there's just this bigger version that's trying to break free? But in spite of all your self-development attempts, you just can't seem to find the way up? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of The Bonus Section and the host of this podcast, and a person just like you, trying to learn how to live the most fulfilling life possible. But to help you take immediate action to get moving in a better direction right now, if you're the take action type of person, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them over at freethinkingtools.com. That's freethinkingtools.com. All right, let's get going. How they measure you is how you behave. Now, the first point here is this is a haunting statement about how we actually limit ourselves. I heard this in an audiobook, and I think I just crashed into it. I was going for a walk on the beach. It was beautiful, and I was listening. I actually stopped and wrote it down on my phone in my notes because it haunted me that much. It just literally stopped me in my tracks. Like, think about that. You're asking a question, show me how you measure me and I'll show you how I behave? That means that somebody else is measuring us or judging us is a better way to say it. And that's affecting our behavior. Think about it in the crazy political climate that we have. And right now, at the recording of this podcast, we're in this crazy time for the presidential election in the United States. And I know that people are modifying their behavior based on whether or not their friends are, affiliated with a political party. By the way, I'm an independent, so I'm going to leave it at that. But I am going to provoke you to think, are you modifying your behavior with your friends? And by the way, are you measuring your friends based on what political party they're in? Are you really doing that to them? You're going to take all these years of all of the, how you have grown up together and that you're friends and that you're going to throw them off or block them? Come on, think. I don't want you to be wagged around by this. And by the way, is it a belief system? Like, look, I'm cool with your passionate beliefs, and I like that. You're passionate about a subject that might be mixed up in all this nonsense. I'm all ears. I'm all ears for people that want to pit themselves against each other in a debate. I love that. I love a good debate that's intellectual and non-emotional, non-personal attacking. Awesome. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's great. But I think a lot of us get swept up in this, and all of a sudden we're blocking each other, we're cutting each other off. And I don't know, you better check yourself before you wreck yourself, the saying goes, right? I think that's a moment to say, all right, is my behavior modified by all that? Is it? And then I take it outside of politics into anything. What about parents? When we're growing up, like, look, I'm the father of 5. My wife and I, we didn't get a manual when we started having kids that said, and even though I had this bent towards coaching and guidance, I made plenty of mistakes. I don't really know what my kids perceived to be as the way I was measuring them. I'm not an easy guy. When I found out what they wanted to do and I supported that creative behavior, 100%, I leaned in and I pushed them to do that. And I don't know that they weren't pushed too hard or they felt limited by my measurement. I don't know. I can talk to them about it and they can listen to this podcast and we can go back in time. But I will tell you one thing that I did was I tried to get them to really look at what they wanted to be. Then I pushed them. I never would want to be known as anybody that limited who we truly are. Outside of a religious context here, whether you believe or you don't believe in God, I think the bottom line is at least admit we're all born and wired to do something, to love to do something. How about that? That we really want to move in that direction. And then we have all these, I'm talking about the measurement. How about the society, the neighborhood, the area you live in? The collective think of all of that. That measures us. Do we fit in? Are we trying to fit in so we modify our behavior? How limiting is that? That's something to really think about in any context. How am I behaving? And is it because I'm being measured by somebody or something or some structure? And some of it's good. Don't get me wrong. I think structure can be really good. I think sometimes if we get too creative and we're off in the poppy fields with Dorothy, like I say, and we're not in the guardrails of pursuing our goals, okay, well then I think that measurement, a little slap, back into the strategy, sure, that makes a ton of sense to me. In fact, it's necessary. So I'm not promoting, your own personal anarchy and your own personal rebellion, but I am saying that you should really question what you're being measured against and who set that measurement up is the next point. That matters a lot. I laugh about this. I think about this all the time. Let me give you this little anecdote. So I have a son out of the 5 who's very cerebral, fantastic student, and he also has this creative bent. And so I wanted to foster that. And so I said, well, what do you think about playing the piano? How about a little nudge to do that? So we found a piano teacher and we took him there. And she was very old school, very, very, I guess, rhythmic and focused and technical in her approach to teaching the piano. And so he goes along and, we're hustling him down there and he's doing his job and he does a recital and it's pretty funny because a lot of the kids were more advanced and he's got a great sense of humor. And then at the end of the last lesson for the season or I can't even remember whether it was before the recital, she says, "Piano's not for you, Jack. I suggest you find something else." He says it better than I do with her accent. And so we got a kick out of this. He got fired by a mentor who was measuring him, telling him it wasn't for him. Now, I'm not saying she might not be right. Jack has a lot of interest. There might be some other things, but come on now. Are you kidding me? To measure a young person like that, instead of having the conversation just to shut it down. I get it if maybe that you're very, technical yourself as a mentor and you only want to really see people who are super passionate. That's one thing. But the way that you measure somebody and the way that you say it to them is everything. So all you teachers, mentors, coaches, leaders out there, think about that. How are you measuring people? What is their perception of the way you're measuring them? And is their behavior modified in a negative way because of the way you are? But more importantly, this is about you as the person looking at who's measuring you. And it might not be just a person. It could be, like I said, a community, a geography, a country. All of these traditions in this tribal mentality, if that's not your thing, then you don't belong there. Because you're going to modify your behavior to fit in, because nobody likes solitary confinement. Nobody. That's where you go crazy. So if you feel like the measurement is limiting you, you have got to make a move out of there. Get out of that influence and seek better guidance. But that begs this next big question here. Well, why don't we behave the way we really want to? I mean, why are we allowing these mentors, these teachers, these tribal, this tribal mentality? Why are we allowing it to measure us in a way that doesn't allow us to be who we are authentically? Why? Why do we submit to it? And again, I understand it as children. There's this sense of, we're so close originally, at least, as almost that animal brain where we are close with our parents in the beginning, presuming that we have them. And we have that sense of comfort and we want to make that person happy and they want to protect us. So they're always slapping us back into, safety. And then they go maybe too far because they're trying to protect you, or they see the world, they see it, and they think you should do the same, and they strip out all that creative imagination. They strip out all that possibility simply because they're hanging on too tight. Or, like I said, we're just unqualified. Who says we're all qualified to be parents? So, to that extent, I understand that there's some real difficulties in the family structure that we're trying to balance early on: safety, protection, whatever it might be, and limitations the way we see the world. But, there comes a certain point in time where, come on now. We've got this little white search bar, and we've got to go into that, and we've got to think about, what do we really love? What do we want to learn more about? When we go to sleep at night, when we wake up, what are we thinking about? And if you use that little white search bar as something that helps you be this creative thinker, then there's an incredible tool that's available to you to practice, to get outside of this, to build your own ladder out of these limitations of being measured by anybody but yourself. You go into the theater of your own mind. So you say, gee, every single day I'm thinking about becoming a professional golfer. I just love the game. I love to watch the game. I get yelled at when I'm on the couch and my parents say, you'll never become anything if you don't go study and become a banker, a dentist. And all I want to do is become a golfer. And all I do is watch it. Well, if you keep watching golf, all you're doing is sitting on the couch. Okay, fair enough. Get online. How to make a perfect swing happen. Right? I mean, now you start thinking into that. Then you go up into the theater of the mind. And there you are on the first tee at Augusta. And you're playing with the best in the world. And you approach the tee and all the gallery is there and they're quiet. And there's a picture perfect hole in front of you. And your backswing is beautiful. And your motion forward is perfect. And you strike the ball and it goes on a perfect trajectory. And the crowd goes wild. See what just happened to me? Just saying that to you? I have the chills through my body, only in my mind, watching this thing happen. Can I change myself physically? And I can measure myself because I wrote the screenplay. I said that I walked up smoothly, that I swung perfectly, that I drove it straight. And I said that the crowd measured me with applause. I said it. Nobody could stop it. And something in my mind, especially if I were to do this when I was relaxed at night, I can create a very real chemical change in my body. I can make synapses fire. I'm still, by the way, as I'm saying this to you in this podcast, I still feel the chemical change. I can feel the chills. And as I say it more, the chills are, they're accelerating. And what my body's saying is, you can do this. Now, again, I don't have an endeavor to be a pro golfer because that's not my game. That's not my game worth playing. My game worth playing, and perhaps why I'm getting the chills, is to be of service to you, and I don't even know you. To be self-fulfilled, I want to coach and teach and provoke thought. I want you to find that permission inside yourself because nobody has to give it to you but you. So you go to that little white bar, you think there, and you take that up to the privacy of your own theater of the mind. And by the way, I know there's a lot of noise in everybody's head, but you don't know what happened to me as a child. You don't know what happened to me here, there. Yes, I do generally. Not good stuff. How about that? So all I'm saying is go up there and you can do this because there are no rules. See a new door, open it, and there's nothing in it but a stage. That's it. Where you in the theater of the mind are the screenwriter, you are the director, you are the audience, you are the player. You can be whatever you want to be in there and create it all and measure yourself. Now that could be a comedian. You could say, oh my gosh, I always wanted to stand in front of people and entertain them, but I am so afraid of standing behind that microphone in front of those people. What if they don't like me? See? You see what I mean? There's an example of the negative measurement that might happen, but that's happening in your head. You're doing that in the other room. You want to be a comedian over in the other room, and you're seeing yourself standing, and they don't like me, and I'm flubbing this up. You see, you're creating these stories. So the ultimate negative measurement or positive measurement is completely up to us. We want to sit around and blame the real people in our lives. We see them. It's easy to blame them. It's easy to blame, well, I didn't grow up in the right state. I didn't grow up in the right country. I didn't have the right parents. Well, I had a boyfriend or girlfriend who told me, Freedom is in that room up there. And the measurement that really, 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 really matters, right, is us. And that's why I'm saying, well, you're not behaving the way that you want to because you're not imagining the good things happening that way. Perhaps you're afraid of it. Or perhaps you're not practicing. Perhaps you already do it a little bit, but you're not thinking about it enough strategically to make improvements. And you're saying, oh, I'll never be. See, that's you measuring you. See, the most dangerous negative measurement actually comes from ourselves. So the irony is when I started off this podcast talking about this, I can see all the external people, all the mentors, which I warned you against, bad coaches, bad mentors. They give you all this limiting, behavior thinking. And yes, that's up there somewhere. But really, the one that's the worst is when we say, well, she was right. He was right. I was never. And we make these, cognitive distortions happen inside our own theater. That's inside your own theater. Nobody's listening. but you. And it's the self-talk in there. So it really, ironically, the most limiting measurement is coming from ourselves. And that's how we're behaving. I'm the worst hockey player there is. Wonderful. That's why you sucked every single game during the tournament. Right? Think about it. It's just not rocket science. It's common sense. So the last point there, why don't you really behave the way you want to? Well, start with the theater of the mind and create it. Create those chills like I just did. It's easy. It's accessible. Just go do it for yourself. Think about a positive. You can only last 5 minutes before all the negative comes rushing in. They kick the door down. Fine. Take the 5 minutes. But the last point is, well, why not measure ourselves against our own standard? Why not? Why not? Why are we trying so hard to please somebody else first and fit in first? See, you think about a relationship, right? You're trying to please your spouse, your partner, right? Whatever. You're trying to please them. Business, you're always trying to please them. But yet you won't go into this theater of the mind and please yourself first and measure yourself first and improve yourself. Make yourself better, happier. You always come back to it's everybody else's fault. Don't do that. Just set this standard. Keep practicing it in the theater of your mind, whatever context it might be, sports, business, life, I don't care. Go up there and practice it. Because what's emerging is a new standard. I mean, you want to be a great golfer? Go back to that. Play every golf course that there is. Go look at it on the internet. Get a visual. Right before you go to bed, sit in your happy chair. Wherever you feel calm, and envision yourself playing perfectly there. Course record. Stroke by stroke, if you want to go that detailed. Walk yourself through until you are so trained to measure yourself in a positive way, brain doesn't know the difference. Now you go out and play a round of golf at your local golf club, and everybody says, what? Who? Who won the club championship? It's just like that, man. It's there. It's there for at least the improvement. I'm not saying there for the taking. I'm not trying to get you all fired up. Oh, you told me this, and I didn't win everything. Well, did you improve? Did you feel better? I mean, that's the whole idea. Treat your mind and your vision a little bit more clearly in a positive way and measure against your own new standard that you set for yourself, which is your imagination. That's your standard. Take yourself there. All right, let me go back and summarize this. How they measure you is how you behave. Scary. That's the first point. This is a haunting statement about how we limit ourselves. Second point was who sets the measurement for you really matters. Other people like mentors who can be negative, they're dangerous. Those that can be positive, awesome. Surround yourself. But beware that you're measuring yourself. That's the most important one. Then the next point was, why don't we behave the way we really want to? Well, we just don't use that theater of the mind to believe it's possible for us. And lastly, why not measure ourselves against our own standard? Because you're not up there creating a new standard that is achievable in your mind before it's ever achievable in life. Let me summarize it this way. The statement, show me how you measure me and I'll show you how you behave, is a stunning reminder of how overly concerned we might be to fit in to anything. The eye-opening moment comes when we realize that we are modifying our own behavior and desires to please other people who measure us their way so that we can fit into their mold and not our own. So it's time to be true to our authentic self and measure against our own standard, which I'll add a little bit to, you can create in the theater of your mind in a fresh, clean room. All right, remember, you can take immediate action to get moving in a better direction because we take all the notes from each episode and we post them for a brief time at freethinkingtools.com. We don't want to post them all there and get you overwhelmed because I know what will happen to the mind. The animal brain will shut you down. So we'll leave a couple episodes up there with our notes. Put a couple of your thoughts next to them. And just if you just did that with a cup of coffee once a week or whatever it might be, you're thinking for yourself and about your own improvement. Also, don't forget you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen so that you don't miss out on any insights each time we upload an episode. We also post all of our episodes on our social media channels. So remember, if you just want to watch it on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, just turn on the notifications for the bonus section, and you won't miss the reminders. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you would share our content with other people just like you so they get the help that they need. And you can join our mission of becoming people for others. Now, remember, I'm going to say this because I sign off this way every single time. Nobody's coming for you. So go get to work on yourself. And of course, I will be happy to help you get started working on yourself by being here for you in the next episode. But know this, I'm humbled by the fact that you would take time to listen, especially if you listen this far into the podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will see you in the next episode.